I think we are recording. Recording is started. So I did this whole video and now I'm doing it again, so that's okay. I just made a dumb error, and that happens when you're a YouTuber. You hit record and then things are recording, but it's actually not. And I recorded the whole video, but I actually wasn't in the studio part here on my StreamYard. But hi, everybody. Anyway, so let's get to the topic here. You guys saw the thumbnail, what we're talking about here. Let's discuss why having a private patient advocate can save your life. Why does it matter? How many of you have known someone who was in a hospital, who was hospitalized, had a healthcare issue, a healthcare crisis? And let's just say, it could have been emergency or non-emergency, but it's not uncommon that at some point in our life, in our long lives, our getting longer lives, we're going to be encountering the healthcare system of the United States, or it could be while we're traveling. It could be anywhere. And maybe we have already encountered healthcare systems abroad or in this country. For the purposes of talking about private patient advocacy, I will say that I'm mostly talking about the United States system, but private patient advocates can work with you anywhere. So there are concierge. I run a concierge private advocacy business, and my model includes, at one point, it did include travel, but it does include, remote assistance for people in remote advocacy. A lot of advocacy can be done remotely. It does not have to be done at the bedside. There are certain advantages to being at the bedside or being physically present, but it is not actually a requirement, and it's not a deal breaker. So I want to really set that straight. Don't worry if you're in some remote area or, oh, I can't find an advocate in my area. You don't need somebody who's going to be, present with you physically. You need somebody who knows how to be present and do it remotely, that they're comfortable with the technology, that you're comfortable with the technology, or whoever's going to be using it. Whoever, if you're the spokesperson for your family member, or you're going to be assisting mom, dad, grandma, grandpa, aunt, uncles, that's fine. You're going to be able to use a private patient advocate. And we could talk about cost as well. And there's a lot of variety, because there are people who do patient advocacy who are not in the healthcare field. They're not healthcare trained, and that's fine. And some of them do amazing jobs. Some of them are more of a case management. Some of them have billing. There are people who do billing services as patient advocates. So maybe you need help with billing and you've got some astronomical bills, or you want somebody to help you negotiate a service that you're going to be paying cash for, and you need the help of somebody to do that. There are patient advocates who can do just that, and that's their wheelhouse. Then there are people like myself who do patient advocacy and really healthcare advocacy. Um, I just don't like doing billing stuff because it's boring. I don't like it. It sometimes pays better, and people will, take a percentage, or there's different ways that they make money doing that. And that's all between you, the client, and that person, that individual, the advocate, or their company. But there are private patient advocates in every state, all over the country. It's a growing field. It's a growing business. I highly encourage people, if you're in healthcare and you're burned out about healthcare, to look into it, contact me, and I can talk to you about how you can get more training and get into it. But why does it matter? I mean, crying out loud, when we are sick, like when you're sick, do you want to be like, the last thing you want to do when I'm sick? I'm knocked out. I'm like bedridden when I get the flu. I'm getting over being sick. It was horrible. Do you think I could advocate for myself? No, I'm like bedridden and feel like I'm dying. So these are the most vulnerable times that people have, and this is when they need an advocate. And you may think, and I've seen this all the time. I've been a nurse for almost 20 years. I've been involved with healthcare for over 40 years, and I practically grew up in hospitals myself, due to family health issues. So I've had the ability from a young age to really see the inner workings of hospitals and some of the largest health facilities in the country, and how they've evolved, and how healthcare's evolved, and then becoming um, uh, a nurse later in life. I was almost 40 when I became an RN, and now as I'm approaching 60, I'm, thinking about my own health, my own process, and luckily, I'm in very good health, and I've taken very good care of myself, and sometimes it's just luck of the draw. I have good DNA. I won the lottery on DNA, and I'm saying this because I've made it this far without any major health issues. So everybody's in a different place. Some people have congenital health issues. Some people are dealing with chronic health issues that are going to pop up at some point in life, adult life, and then you're never going to get rid of it, right? And what are your assurances that you're going to be safe while you're in the hospital? This may come as a surprise to many of you, and to many of you, it may not. It may not be surprising. But did you know that medical errors are estimated to be the third leading cause of death in the United States? I mean, just that's insane. That is insane. And I'm talking this is data that is going back at least, I would say, a decade. Probably 2 decades, because the initial research that came out in 2016 was looking retrospectively back then. These are medical errors. This is not, "Oh, we didn't have a cure or the right treatment for this disease until, recently." No, this is everything. We have everything in place to help you get better, but we have screwed it up. We have somehow made an error, and when you think about every minute you're in a hospital or you are seeking care or you're not feeling well, is an opportunity for success or error or both. Sometimes they do happen simultaneously. And who's going to be the person that's going to protect you the most? If the first thought comes to your mind is your nurse, you are right. But that person could also be the greatest liability. It could be the provider, the doctor, the nurse practitioner. It could be, any number of things can happen. Accidents can happen in a hospital, in a healthcare setting. People trip, they fall, they have a seizure, they fall off a table, an X-ray or CAT scan or MRI. They're unable to, maybe an IV gets ripped out, or maybe they get a pressure sore. They're not turned enough, or they're not moving enough. But when you have a loved one in the hospital, or you're in that bed, you're panicked. Our nervous system is taxed. We're on high alert. We may be feeling hypervigilant, but then actually not see the forest for the trees. Hypervigilance and caring and loving somebody has nothing to do with actually being able to see what's going on and being able to notice where there could be breakdowns in the system or breakdowns in care, diagnostics. We're talking about, what gets ordered. Did the right test get ordered? Is the right X-ray, the right imaging, the right blood draw? Are we looking at the ultrasound? Is the person reading, the radiologist reading the ultrasound, the cardiologist reading the ultrasound? Are they, having a bad day? Are they really exhausted? Is the image kind of fuzzy and maybe they're just saying, okay, this is, what we think it is, what we think we're seeing? All these things factor in. And sometimes there's just no way to get good images. There's not a good way to get good diagnostics because of the state of a patient. Sometimes patients refuse. Quite often, people, and this always blows my mind, people are in the hospital and then they refuse care. They refuse to take medications. They refuse to get labs drawn. They refuse to participate in their care. I don't know why they're in the hospital, but that's a complete waste of time. Because if you're not there to get better and you're not able to talk to your family member or whatever your expectations may be, we have to have the right match, right? When you're hospitalized. And so if you seek care, then you have to be open and willing to execute that care for yourself as well. But in addition to the kind of errors that can happen, you are prone and highly likely, at higher risk of getting any infectious disease. And that also goes for people that are visitors that, demand to stay in a hospital with a loved one, right? Hospitals are not healthcare facilities, doctor's offices, providers' offices. Obviously, dental offices are pretty clean, I hope. I mean, I always feel like those are the cleanest places in some ways. But the you just never know, right? Because unless you're seeing somebody cleaning something, if you're sitting there all day long with your family member in a hospital and you haven't seen a housekeeper come in that room, that's not the hospital for you, right? How does that look? Then who's cleaning that room? The room's only getting cleaned in between each patient, then that's not enough, right? So how often are your sheets being changed, or you being bathed? Is your family member being, taken out of the bed, get up in the chair, moving around, all of these areas, just the fact of short staffing. And again, we've never recovered. We have not recovered in the last 5 years in healthcare. And we're just looking at more and more shortages because guess what? It's really hard to be a nurse, and the new nurses are not staying. They're deciding, hey, this isn't what I thought it was going to be, and I don't like this. And, younger generation, the younger generations, Gen Z, they don't like doing something, they're not gonna do it. They're like, you know, I don't know how they're gonna make a living or what they're gonna do, but they're gonna figure it out. They're gonna figure out something else, and, what will healthcare look like for them? I don't know. They're just gonna be, talking to AI pretty much, and that's gonna come in our lifetime as well. So for those of us in my age, I'm Gen X, and if you're a boomer, you're a millennial, and we still have some of our very elderly, amazing people, the lost generation, as they're called, I believe. Um, so it's very common to see people in their 90s in the hospital, right? And wanting everything done. So if you don't, have a private patient advocate, you need to really think about that. I've taken care of a lot of people that have large families. I'm a small family person, so I don't have really a big family. But when I see people that have 10 grandkids, cousins, aunts, uncles, these giant families, siblings, and then they're like, "Oh, we don't have any money," right? But, okay, well, you're bringing food in that you just bought, right? So if everybody pitches in $25 or $100, right, you'd be able to pay for the service of a patient advocate at least for a few hours. So you have to really think, what is the cost, the valuation of your life? What is the value of your loved one and their health, your health? Think about all the things we spend money on, and we spend money like idiots in America. We spend money on all kinds of stuff. If you travel around the world, even in industrialized nations, you'll see they do not spend the kind of money we do on crap, right? So think about what your investment is. So I would say to you, start putting money away for when you may need a patient advocate. It could be $10 a week. It could be, it could be $10 a month, right? But to have that money available for yourself, when you need it could really make a difference. I will say everybody needs to have a patient advocate. I'm gonna talk a little bit more about that, but I'd love to hear from you guys in the comments about, have you ever used a patient advocate? And I'm not talking about the hospital advocates. That's not an advocate. That is a hospital representative. Those people do not have a clue what's going on. I've never spoken to a single one of them that ever has any medical training. They are there for just to hear you out, listen to you, nod their head, okay, yeah, and then nothing happens. I have never once in the services I've rendered, I actually now, as a private patient advocate, refuse to speak to them. I will not speak to the advocate. You're not required to speak to the advocate of a hospital. You can go directly to the top of the food chain. So don't buy into that because you're going to waste time, and time is not on your side if somebody's in the hospital. You want to get to the resolution as quickly as possible and get the best care possible for your loved one. So let me know where you're watching this video from, what questions you may have. I don't give medical advice, but what kind of questions would you have? And where would you see that you might need an advocate, or for which patient, which person in your family would you want to have an advocate for, a patient advocate for, and how old is that person? You don't have to give me information about their health issues and stuff. I don't want all that information. But I do want to hear about more what you're dealing with out there, because I know as a nurse, I'm terrified to be hospitalized and be unable to speak for myself and advocate for myself. And I have arrangements to have an advocate. I have people who will be my advocate if I need it. I've done tons of pro bono work for other people as well, and I still do mostly pro bono work now, for people. And often people don't even know how to utilize an advocate. So let's talk about that more. All right, thanks, you guys. Remember to subscribe, like this video, comment, share this video. This is a great video to share with your family, with your friends. Share it with your social groups, and because this is information that everybody needs, and sometimes people just don't know what's out there for them and how to access how to access resources, even if they've got the finances, if they're willing to, they just don't understand that private patient advocacy exists. I'm Nurse Adrienne RN. I'm a board certified patient advocate. I'm a registered nurse. I'm a future psychiatric nurse practitioner. And I look forward to talking to you guys a little bit more about these issues. Thanks so much. Thanks for watching. Remember to subscribe. Have a great day.